Hi, I'm Todd Nash, president of the Oregon Cattlemen's Association. I'm here today with Caroline Lobdell. And Caroline, you're there at Western Resources Legal Center. You want to describe a little bit about that program, where you're at, where you're from, and what you do there?
Sure, thank you. I'm the executive director for the Western Resources Legal Center, and we are a nonprofit 501c3 legal education program. So what that means is I spend my days and my career in the courtrooms and the classrooms. Our mission is to provide hands-on skills and opportunities to learn for students to learn about the types of clients that we represent, which is rural America and natural resource dependent communities and entities. So we take on cases that we think are going to help folks, and we teach law students along the way, and we win every now and then too, and our students go off and they do great things.
Well, you have an amazing winning record, and it's well noted. We'll get into that just a little bit, but there at Lewis and Clark, you're a little bit of an anomaly. You want to talk about that?
I'm a little bit of a loner there in some respects. Lewis and Clark Law School is known for a very active and robust and strong environmental law program, and we are part of that program, just a different alternative opportunity and perspective. But I would say that the more pervasive approach to environmental law is through the other environmental law clinics or the animal law clinic, where the push is to stop timber sales and remove ranching and grazing on public lands. And so we are very stark counterbalance to those perspectives.
Okay. When I visited the one time that I did visit the school there and went to your office, it was a stark comparison. You walk down the halls and the stickers that are on the other professors' doors, and then what you represent there. Caroline, how does somebody from Oklahoma end up in Oregon doing a job like this?
It was just a lucky strike, I guess. I was getting out of private practice in litigation, and I applied for this job and I got it. I think it was supposed to be a much less stressful job when I first took it, but of course litigation builds over the years, and we have the caseload that we do. And honestly, I don't have an explanation. I think it was just a lucky strike.
Yeah, and you had some experiences back in Washington, D.C. You were a staffer for Clarence Thomas there. Do you want to talk about that experience being at the Supreme Court?
Todd, you bring up things that are so far away from who I am today. I did a stint in DC. I worked for the U.S. Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. I worked for Senator Fritz Hollings, and I did copy work at the Supreme Court in that office. But when we say it, once you become a lawyer, folks may think that I clerked for the justice, and I didn't do that. But I did do a stint and spent some time in some very low-level jobs in DC.
Yeah, you're pretty humble about that, but it gave you some experience and some exposure to some really high-level things, though, didn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why you do those things. That's why you do those things young, when you are trying to just get a lay of the land and see how our decision makers come to the decisions that they make, how the judicial systems work behind the scenes of a courtroom bench and a judge in a robe. And so, yes, all of that is certainly part of the experience that gets me here. Yes, it is. And it's also what fuels the mission to have our students come into these types of things, because I myself understand that formative time in one's life, when you are building a career and you are getting training and skills to last you a career of a lifetime, right? So firmly believe in doing those kind of opportunities. And our program also has a field placement component where we try to put students in those exact type of situations that I myself benefited from in DC.
So Caroline, getting back to Western Resources Legal Center there, you have a board that governs somewhat what you do there. And how does that board function? How does that relationship that you have with the board and the college and everything, how does that all work together?
We have a board that's very carefully put together that represents a wide variety and cross-section of natural resource industries and communities. So we have representation from grazing, cattlemen's or agriculture, farmers, oil and gas, energy exploration, timber, mining, individuals that are committed to our educational mission. And they come together and build on commonalities. So we know that resource users don't always agree on everything, but there is strength on the common ground that we do have. And WRLC is about finding those common grounds and putting together strategies in the courtroom and the classroom that bring those common grounds to the surface.
Yeah, and that's really one of the things that I appreciate, and probably in ways makes it easier for you, because you never pit resource user against resource user, rancher against rancher, farmer against farmer, and that's really helpful to draw those distinct lines to begin with. But the cases that you do take, describe how those cases are taken up when you decide that you're going to take something. Maybe give an example.
We have a careful case selection process where the golden rule is that we don't pit an industry against another industry. We're very careful about the principles of laws that we advance, that they be significant and important for the natural resource community as a whole. We look at the strength of the case in terms of whether we think we can win it. We have very limited resources and we're very busy. So we take a case on a pro bono basis. Somebody else who comes knocking on our door may not have the ability to have a lawyer because we won't have capacity. So we adhere to our principles and our case selection. That includes kind of an analysis of the significance across the board, the need of the client, and the strength of the facts.
Okay. Let's talk about your record. And so since you've been there at Western Resource, how many cases have you taken on? How many have you won? And how many have you lost?
I've never had time to go back and track my record. We had 58 cases as of January, and I think right now we have 39. Not all of them are huge, significant, high-profile cases. Some of them are handling a lease agreement for a client or writing comments for a client. So not all of them are a win-lose situation. Some of it is just advancing legal work that needs to get done. I don't have a track record in terms of what my batting percentage is. I will confident say that we won a number of high profile cases and had a lot of small wins too. I don't know the number. And there's been a loss or two along the way too. And one big loss that I can remember about 10 years ago on a timber sale. But I haven't sat down and tracked my stats.
Yeah, I think if you remember a loss or two, that's what it was. It was one or two losses along the entirety of your career there. And that is amazing that you've been able to do that. And I've got to witness you in court. You represented Wallowa County on a case that was a timber sale. You also represented some ranchers that were here in Wallowa County. You've taken on cases that are of significance all over the state of Oregon to the ranching community. And you are an amazing talent, Caroline, and it is incredible to be able to watch you. I remember over in Pendleton watching the case there, and it took the environmental group close to 2 hours to capture what they wanted to say. And then you had the Forest Service come in and they talked for half hour, 45 minutes. And then Caroline gets up and in 7 minutes of rapid fire conversation that the judge couldn't keep up with and said, I'll just go back and listen to the recording later as you were talking, and had everybody gripped. And I still remember a person sitting in back of me, and I still have the little sticky note, and it simply said, that was awesome. And it was. And you're able to articulate points and go back to case law, and you have an amazing mind and amazing talent, and you're developing that into students that are helping us today. And one of your first students, Dominic Carrillo, he continually takes on more cases for us, not pro bono, but we are so happy that we have that person available to us. So do you want to talk about some of your students?
They are the crown jewel. It's not the wins. It's never the wins for me. It's always the students that fuel the fire. Because I look at where our country's going, and I look at the need for the national conversation when our future policymakers and judges come to their time. And there's a need there to educate and to provide this alternative perspective and to engage in the conversation. And the students that come through my classroom, I hope leave understanding that. I know they leave with an introduction to natural resources that is different than what Lewis and Clark typically approaches the conversation with. Folks like Dominic Carrillo come in who may not have had a home in law school at this top law school program without a program like ours. That is to say that he didn't have a place to gain hands-on real opportunities to protect the timber industry or to support a rancher in Wallowa County, or to handle a water right for a developer, a hands-on ability to get that skill. So we take that very seriously. He was the first. He's now a partner in his own law firm. And every time I see him speak and every time I see a brief he writes, I have this little spark of proudness for how far that student has come. There's many others. Sarah Liliafelt, who's also at Dunn Kearney, she was an early student on. She really wanted a dream job in water law on this side of the equation. And again, came up with a paucity of places to start that career. And it was at our front door in our classroom that she started that career. And she's now a very seasoned, very smart person out there doing the work. And there's so many countless more. We have many in clerkships working for judges. We have them in DC. We have them in private firms. And some of them have gone on to careers not directly supporting natural resource users, but they're in those jobs with a little bit of Professor Lobdell in their head. And that's a different perspective, and that's a different consideration that doesn't always get on the table if you don't get access and exposure at the educational level.
Yes. So, you mentioned Sarah Liliafelt, and she is our water committee chair for Oregon Cattlemen's, and we are so fortunate to have her. And
that's why I name dropped her.
Yeah. She is an amazing talent, and it's kind of the same thing when you go to Salem and you watch Sarah testify before a committee there.
Yeah.
You see these committee panelists see this resource there in front of them that is so finely tuned, so articulate, so knowledgeable, so comfortable in what she's saying that there's little dispute what she has to present is not accurate. And to have that confidence for us, to have somebody represent us like that, or have you represent us, or know that you're developing more students, it's just an incredibly wonderful thing that is going on there. And so we very much appreciate everything you do there. Caroline, is there something that we didn't cover here that you would like to talk about?
We are, yes, and it's the success and the support of cattlemen's and folks like you and so many in the public lands and the ranching industry that took WRLC to the quantum level that it is now through the financial support, the moral support, the cases, the conversations, keeping us abreast of your issues so that we can study them to be ready at a moment's notice when you need us. We can't succeed without the partnership, without the cases that you've sent me, without the students that you've taken under your mentorship, without the support and the conversations through so many different industries and so many folks in your neck of the woods. And that piece, I always get the glory for WRLC, but really that's the wind beneath the WRLC wings. It's the whole team. It's the whole community. It's the whole shared vision. That's really what it is. So I will throw back to you. Thank you. And thank you for delivering me the cases that we win. They're not always because it's a good lawyer. Sometimes they're really good cases and we deserve to win every now and then in the ninth, right?
Yeah, that was pretty fun. Everybody says that we don't win in the Ninth Circuit, but you take Caroline Lobdell with you, you're going to win, regardless of where you go. So yeah, and it's humbling that you throw that back to us, because we feel like we underfund you, we overwork you, and you outperform to what we give you as far as resources. But if there's somebody that wants to contribute to a very fine cause here, how can they do that?
There is an online giving at the Lewis and Clark Law School, and you designate WRLC and you can make an online contribution, or you can just send us a check. We have an address on the website. And our day of giving is coming up March 1. And we like to show the law school that there is success not in just the monetary value, but the number of supports and alums that support us and them having our program there. So it's the number of participants for this particular day matters maybe even more than the actual contribution amount. Some of our students give $10 because that's what a law student can give right now. And every dollar of that does help the cause.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to object to the fact that you've observed that I'm overworked, because I won't deny that fact.
And you know, we don't want to overwork you as much as we do, but you know, there's so much to be done out here, and so few of you to do the work, and so little money in the communities that we live in that are tried and time and again by regulatory agencies, by environmental groups. It is a necessity. You know, we just kind of got accustomed to losing time and again. And with you there along our side, we've had some wins, and you've taken on cases that would have cost us $250,000 for us to have an attorney do what you did, and we got it for you know, putting you up at a night in Seattle so that you could get ready to testify before the Ninth Circuit, and a few mailings, and we got off pretty darn cheap. But it takes a whole community to do that, and every time you win one of these cases, you set case law that substantiates us going forward, and maybe that won't happen again, or maybe an environmental group will think twice about entering into that same sort of a case. So anyway, it's more substantial than what anybody can imagine, and you've made a radical change in rural America, in Oregon. Certainly you've it impacted my own life, and that, you know, there's hope in some of these things that we didn't have before. So thank you very much. Thank you for getting on today. And I just can't say enough good about the program and what you've accomplished and done there.
Thank you for having me, and keep the issues coming. That's what we love to do, and that's what our students need to see. So keep them coming.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye.